Hey everyone, this is Kara and
This is Leah, and let's get real.
pretty light, but we feel like a topic that is really important, especially at the studio, that we heard a lot talked about is depression, and specifically postpartum depression. So we wanted to, as always, be real with you guys and share our personal struggles with depression, as well as we have one of our awesome instructors here, Maritza, who's going to share on her struggle with depression. And so we'll get into that more later, but that is what's coming. The intent here is to just bring awareness to allow us the freedom to have these conversations, so that we don't feel like it's this big, deep, dark thing, that it's not something we're able to talk about, but that it's a very real subject that a lot of people struggle with at one time or another. And so let's talk about it. Let's get into it. So we will get there, but we felt like we needed to start out with something a little bit lighter. But first of all, Leah, what's been going on the last couple weeks?
Well, this past couple weeks, I have been running with you for is it a 10K? Yeah, what's it, 6.5 miles? That's it. 6.2? 6.2 miles for a 10K. So the best I've done is running 4 miles with not stopping. I did it in 37 minutes, so 9-minute miles. And after that, I didn't want to do anything for the next 4 days.
Yeah.
But other than that, trying to keep strong in the diet. We just moved into the apartment this past week, which is cool. So getting everything set up that we don't have yet. So that's
you're getting stuff set up that you don't have.
Yep. So just kind of figuring out where we're gonna put everything. All we have is our bed and my dresser, and that's it. So I walk in there and I'm like, "Ooh, where can we set this up?" And he's like, "We don't have it yet." And I'm like, "I know, but you gotta plan for it. You gotta, you gotta know what you want." Yeah. So just kind of planning. And I'm excited to move in. Well, he lives there right now, and I'll move in April. So when we get married,
it's exciting.
Yeah. What about your past couple weeks?
Yeah. So the last couple weeks have been exciting. The studio has been a lot of fun. We've got some new people in with New Year's resolutions, so that's been exciting to see. And what else? Well, yeah, we are doing the the 131 program that's going really well. I've been feeling really awesome, in fact. So good. It's been exciting, just kind of maneuvering through.
You look good, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, maneuvering through the ins and outs of that, and learning the program, and just life. Riley started flag football, so we started practices, and that's fun.
How old is Riley?
He is 13.
Varsity?
14. Yeah, varsity for middle school.
That's awesome.
It's good stuff. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been good. It's been real.
Cool. It's been real. It's been real. So I wanted to do something a little funny. So I went onto BuzzFeed and I wanted to get some tweets about working out. And so I'll go first. And I thought these were hilarious. I won't say who tweeted them. I won't put them on blast. But they're pretty funny. So my favorite one that I read, and I've been guilty of this. So I used to work at a restaurant, and so I wouldn't get off until 12 o'clock at night. And then I'd have all this energy, and I was like, how am I going to go to bed? My heart rate is still up really high. You're busy, go, go, go. So I was like, let me just go for a run at 12 at night. Who does that? And so this tweet.
By yourself?
By myself. Yeah, in my neighborhood. So this tweet really, came home to me because I know exactly how this feels. But this tweet, it says, I like going for runs at night because the added fear of being murdered really does wonders for my cardio.
That's true.
It is, right?
That's true. We used to park at my parents' house. They have. I feel like I need to keep turning to you too. So at my parents' house, they still, where I was born and raised, they have a house that's surrounded by woods, and so the woods can be really scary and dark at times, and so we would park our cars and run inside like crazy fast. So I had that, but in short spurts.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so the one I have here is my running form could be described as drunk woman slowly being chased by no one.
That was me. Okay, so after I ran the 4 miles,
Uh-huh.
like really fast that day, I had to run with Carrie the next day, and I swear that was me. I could not. I had the worst form. I was just trotting through, and I had like my head laid back, my core was all smushy, and I was just like going. I felt like I was like walking. It was so bad. I couldn't run that night.
It reminds me of that Friends episode where Phoebe runs in the park. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
Where she's like flailing her arms and like Rachel's super embarrassed, but then finds that it's fun. Like, we should try that running style
We
sometimes.
should. I like that.
Yeah.
Let some loose. Okay, so this next one, it says, gym instructor. What is your favorite machine to use at the gym? Me. The vending machine.
Oh, nice.
Actually, the vending machines at the gyms I used to go to, they only had like protein stuff, and I was like, I don't like it. So
You wanted candy bars
Yeah.
and chips and stuff?
yep, I did.
Super.
I know. Lovely.
All right, so this next guy, this gem of a guy, asked, how long are you supposed to rest in between sets at the gym? Like 6 months? Wow.
You're not getting fit. All right.
What you got?
Okay, so this next one. So it says at age 20, gotta get ripped for spring break, man. And then that's most guys, you know. And then age 25, exercise reduces stress. Age 35, my doctor says I'll die immediately if I don't do this.
It's like it finally transitioned to being like, oh, maybe I should do this for my health.
Yeah. Or you're gonna die.
That's true though, because like for me, I'm like, I have to have more purpose behind working out these days. Like vanity's not enough for me.
Really?
Like I wanna look good for my husband, but there needs to be something even more behind that.
Yeah.
Like,
because he likes you no matter what. Like he's stuck with you.
yeah. It's true.
Cheers.
I mean,
Cheers. Drink to that.
I told him the other day that I don't feel like he's ever looked at me in a way that said I wasn't hot.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm comfortable with him. Not too comfortable that I'm not going to let myself get obese, but I'm comfortable enough to where like I don't feel like I need to do it for him.
That's good.
So it's got to be like health.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about things like the genetics of my family and those kind of things. So
My fiance got flabby, and then I got flabby, and we both talked about it today. We're like, dude, we got flabby at the same time. And
Yeah.
like, one of us needs to hold each other accountable. Like, we can't be doing this.
we tell each other all the time, we're like, we're in this together.
Yeah.
Like there's not going to be one of us that
Nope.
are like crazy healthier or more fit than the other. We've got to keep things balanced.
And that's exactly how it's been with him and I, which is good. I like that.
Oh,
This
goodness.
isn't my another favorite. It's a play on words, so hang on with me here, all right? Waldo asked me to spot him at the gym. Couldn't do it. You get it? Like spot.
Couldn't find Waldo.
Couldn't find it. Couldn't spot it.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny.
Oh yeah.
So punny.
So punny. All right.
All right.
So those are our funny tweets for the day.
Yeah. All right. Well, so our last week's podcast was all about diets and the do's and the don'ts and the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and the all of those things about diets. And Leah and I shared the different diets that we have done and then what we're currently doing, which is the 131 program, which is called the anti-diet diet. And the first phase of it, called the Ignite phase, is what we're in right now, which is the ketosis phase. So like I shared before, I've actually been feeling really, really, really incredible. Most of the time, there's been some struggles throughout, but overall, I'm feeling pretty great.
Me too. I'm never a morning person. These past couple of days, how long have we been doing it now? 3 weeks? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? It's been 3 weeks, and in these past couple of days, I've been waking up wide awake at like 6:30, 7, and going to bed at like 10:30. And before, I'd be laying in bed, but not be able to fall asleep till like 12, 1 o'clock. So it's kind of cool to see not only my overall health, but my transition of my mind and my body is finally going the route it needs to be going.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's been really good. And I think the next phase is more of a plant-based phase. And so the way the system works is it goes through phases. And so the first phase being the Ignite, the second phase being Nourish. And so I'm excited for that next phase, see what it's like, even though I've really actually enjoyed the keto phase.
Me too.
Some super good recipes.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you didn't tune in, that was a lot of fun, our last podcast. So check it out.
Check it out.
All right, so let's go ahead and move into what we're actually here to talk about today. And I want to start off with some stats that were pretty staggering to me overall. But basically, there's two main types of depression, being somebody who would have like a single bout of depression, which is more of what I've experienced, like situational bouts of depression, or somebody who has recurring episodes. And when depression lasts 2 years or more, it is then called persistent depressive disorder.
Mm.
I've had experience with that in my family, but not personally. So I'll share more on the situational depression that I've personally experienced. But it says, the stats that we have says 20% of people with major depressive disorder develop psychotic symptoms. So it's a progressive thing. If it's not treated and handled well, then it's only going to progress. It's not just going to get better on its own, typically. And then 10 to 15% of women, this is 10 to 15% of women overall who have ever had a baby, experience and develop postpartum depression. That's a huge amount.
That is.
And it's so rare to hear it talked about, which is sad, because I know as moms, and we'll get more into this later, but as moms, it's
heart-wrenching.
It's heart-wrenching because you love this child so much, so you feel guilty. There's so much shame and guilt surrounding postpartum depression. But like I said, we'll talk more about that later.
This next one is staggering.
Yeah.
Approximately 12 million women in the United States experience clinical depression each year. Holy cow.
Yeah.
That is a lot of women.
Yeah. And how many people do you actually hear talk about it?
Never.
Because people are embarrassed for whatever reason.
And they try to hide behind it. And
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep. And I always feel like it's the most, there's people that I'm always so surprised when they tell me they've struggled with depression, because they seem like the most put together, a lot of times the most put together people that always have smiles on their faces. And so, that's part of the hardest part of depression, is trying to hide it. It takes so much effort to hide it instead of just being real. And, obviously you don't want to blast it on social media. Hey, I'm depressed. It's not about getting sympathy or pity, but those people who are close to you that you can be real with and really have that support, I think is so crucial.
Yeah.
So another stat is about 1 in every 8 women can expect to develop clinical depression during their lifetime. Craziness. Mm-hmm. And it occurs more frequently in women aged 25 to 44. I can see that.
Me too.
For sure. Let me get that next one there.
Yeah. So the next one, it says, many factors in women may contribute to depression, such as developmental, wow, I can't read today. Developmental, reproductive, hormonal, genetic, and other biological differences. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm dumbfounded.
Yeah. Well, and then the examples for that being premenstrual syndrome, childbirth, infertility, and menopause. We have so many factors, so many chemicals, different things that are happening in our bodies that contribute, and just being aware of it and not feeling guilty when we experience symptoms, because they could be very natural when we're not taking care of our bodies in a certain right way, or regardless, it just can pop up, based on genetics and things like that. Mm-hmm. But for me, what I've felt has been more relative in my life is the social factors, because it says social factors may also lead to higher rates of clinical depression among women, including stress from work, family responsibilities, the roles and expectations of women, and increased rates of sexual abuse and poverty. So all of these things, just social factors that play an issue in depression. I found it. A part of me was surprised. Another part was kind of like, well, yeah, that makes sense because of those factors. Not that men don't have the same stress, but it's a different kind of stress. Usually the women are the most in charge of the kids and things like that. And I feel like a lot of times too, women handle the bills or the bookkeeping, that kind of stuff. And that's, those things are heavy responsibilities on top of the hormonal stuff that we struggle with as women that men don't have, as much struggle with. And
that goes into the next one about the gender differences.
Yeah.
The women experience depression at a roughly twice the rate as men, of men, sorry. And so, because I know people say women are emotional, and a lot of women probably like, I'm not emotional, I'm not emotional, but it's not even that. It's just so many factors come into it. Like you said, you know, we have the hormonal, the substantial ones, and I can just see that being completely true. You know, men, not that they have it easier, but they just have their brain works completely different than ours. You know, so with men, they can focus on one thing at a time, but as women, like if something's wrong with the family, then something's wrong with our money, and then our family, and then our friends, and then this, like it all kind of like correlates together. So I feel like that's where everything kind of comes in as women, is everything connects.
Yeah.
You know, and I've definitely, the older I get, I've been experiencing that more and more, where I'm like, things I didn't think would connect.
Right.
Like that makes no sense.
Yeah, the lines aren't black and white. Everything kind of
Correspond.
like work and family life all blends together, and you still have to get the kids to the activities and all the stuff. It's can be a challenging balance for sure. Yep. So actually, we'll kind of move into the different treatments. Obviously, there's the medical side of things, where there's medicines available and therapy and different things like that. But research also has some pretty hard scientific backing for health and fitness, and the way that people eat being a really valuable form of treatment. You want to share some info on those factors?
Yeah, so I Googled a little bit about that, because I was wondering, you know, does eating right even affect depression or anything? And so what it says is food nourishes the body, and it needs certain types of foods, because if you eat the wrong types of foods, it inflames your brain, which leads to depression. And that's that's one of the causes. Not that is a cause, but it will benefit to eat healthier foods and to watch what you're putting in your mouth and make healthier decisions, because having your brain inflamed is what also can lead to those substantial depressions or hormonal depressions, and because it puts your body off, you know, off whack. And so
I've definitely experienced that. When I eat a lot of sugar in particular, I feel like is a big trigger for me, and a lot of people. It's not good for our bodies. But I feel like the day after I consume an abundance of sugar, I feel depressed. Like I feel completely hormonally unbalanced, and I just feel out of whack, just less patient, more irritable. So that makes a lot of sense. But it's interesting to come at depression and think about how food can be a medicine for that. Eating right can help treat depression. And you know, to come at it from that angle, not to say you shouldn't use medicine. I mean, you follow your doctor's orders, but when you're combining that along with healthy eating and then fitness, you're going to be way ahead of somebody else who is not using health and fitness as a treatment option.
And I do want to say that the foods that are, if you look it up, that inflame your body, it's always different for somebody else. So if you're starting to wonder and want to start eating right, just look up different foods that are known facts that inflame your body, and then go from there. So kind of wean those foods out, and then start trying to see for yourself, you know, what does my body not take to. So if you're dealing with depression and you want to try this, look it up on Pinterest or Google or whatever of the specific foods that most people that inflames their bodies, and start taking it out, winging them out, and see how that works, and you know, kind of experiment with it, because everyone's different. Like I can eat beans and not feel inflamed, but then Kara can not, you know, she feels inflamed and bloated when she eats them. So everyone's different. So I would do some research on that. But you mentioned about the exercise part, about depression, and that's one of the ways that I helped when I went through my depression is I didn't know what to do, and I lost a lot of weight. So my thing was, okay, well, I want to get my weight back. So I started with working out, not thinking it would help my depression, just thinking I wanted to gain my weight back from my depression. Right. So that actually is what kept me climbing out of it and just crawling my way out. And so, but I looked it up on Google again, and it says the exercise, it helps with depression, anxiety, and stress. So it relieves these chemicals from our brains and our bodies that we need just to release the stress, the anxiety, and depression that we have. It says everyone knows that regular exercise is good for the body, but exercise is also one of the most effective ways to improve your mental health. It also relieves stress, improves memory, helps you sleep better, and boosts overall mood. I have a funny story to tell.
Okay.
So-
Oh boy.
So I was dating this guy, and I was involved in a boot camp, and they came to my house, and we were just kind of like talking. We weren't even dating. We were just kind of talking, and he was at like his ex-girlfriend's house, whatever, and I didn't know that he was, and I saw it on social media, and I was livid, like inside, and I like didn't text him yet. I woke up in just enough time to go outside to take my boot camp class.
Yeah.
So I go outside and I work out, and I'm like I'm shaking. I'm so angry. And so as I'm working out near the end, I was like, what was I mad about? Like I seriously couldn't remember.
Yeah.
And so I made it not a big deal because I was like, I felt like it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But in that moment, like that's why girls are crazy. You know? You just need to work out when you're mad and you won't be so crazy.
It's true. It really, really helps.
It is. So it changed my mood, and thank God. Well, I should have went off on him anyways, but I didn't. But yeah, it was great. I was shocked. And so ever since I've been getting like I don't deal with anger at all. Like I'm the most calm person ever. But anytime I feel like I could get angry, I just go for a run or go work out, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. But I thought it was really funny because I was livid.
I've noticed the same thing when I feel like I haven't worked out for a long time. It's like the same thing with sugar. I start getting more irritable.
Yeah.
And you just feel blah. So it's
not fun.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Well, fitness is a good thing, not the depression.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share a little bit about the type of depression I've experienced. Like I said, was more of a situational bouts of depression, more relative to things like when we're struggling financially or when there's relational issues and stuff like that. I've found there's been a couple times specifically in my life that when I've gone to that place, it's like you can't function. I remember one day, not too long ago, really less than a year ago, that I was really, really struggling and felt that onset of depression. And you wake up in the morning and everything seems challenging. Brushing your teeth, taking a shower, getting dressed, all of these little everyday tasks that when you're in a right state of mind are just very normal, are the hardest thing in the world to do. I remember that day in particular, I literally laid around in my robe almost the entire day. And it was like I couldn't function. I didn't want to eat. It was hard to take care of the kids. It was hard to do anything at all. In fact, Jesse had to work that day. I'm like, don't leave me. I don't know what to do. And it was just like, fortunately, that is not the norm in my life. I can point to, like I said, probably 2 times in my life that I've experienced it to that level, but it really makes me sympathetic to people who deal with this on an everyday basis. I can't imagine, because you can't stop living. I mean, especially if you're a breadwinner or you're a parent, and you have a family, there's things that have to be done. You can't stop functioning. Yeah. And so I guess, because for me that day, it was a Sunday, I didn't really have much to do anyway, so I kind of could just live in that place. And my kids are bigger. I didn't have to necessarily feed them. So I just really, it's like, wow, people who deal with this on a day-to-day basis and really have to fight this battle all the time, it's insane. Because it's so intense and it's a very, very real thing. For me, a big part of getting through, the bouts that I've had, the biggest thing I can point to is my faith. And then, of course, all of the other factors. I can't say that I've ever really considered the eating as far as treating those bouts with depression. I've noticed how eating bad can trigger me.
How long were you in your depression for? Like, was it like a couple weeks?
No, I feel like, well, I think at times it could last up to a couple weeks, but it was more even just like I would get really low, even just for a day or two at a time.
Right.
And then, kind of slowly climb out and then maybe slip a little bit and slowly climb out and slip a little bit. But it's definitely more situational. Like just when the stress level is so intense that it's like my body shuts down.
Right.
that's where I get to is it's more a stress contributing depression. So my stress gets really high, my body shuts down. It's like, I can't do this, so I'm not going to do anything. It's like I just stop fighting.
Yeah.
So that's been more how it's been for me. And like I said, my faith has helped me climb out of that. And then I do feel like exercise and just forcing myself to get dressed for the day and get ready has been a big factor in that. So what about you? Tell us all about your crap.
Yeah, here it comes. Got a big old bag. It's not about that. Okay, what's today's date? Let's see. January. So about 2 years ago now. Wow, it's been 2 years. Something like that. All right. So I started in March. We'll just go by the months. So in March, I got back with an old boyfriend and realized in my head that, oh, he's the one. This is it. I gotta do everything I can to keep it. You know, I'm gonna put my all in this. I'm gonna, you know, do the dishes. I'm gonna do laundry. I'm gonna clean. He has to do nothing. Like, and I wrote him notes and just did everything I could to show him, you know, hey, I want to be with you, and constantly texting other girls, and so once that started, it was like staggering at me. Yeah, and I was like, oh, am I not good enough? So I try harder. Okay, well, I'm going to clean a little bit deeper. I'm going to pick up his favorite drinks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then I would see more text messages and more calls and coming home late from work later and later, 2-3 hours later. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, all right, well, I got to try harder. You know, I got to show him. And this is a point where I couldn't eat. I was so upset because what I was doing wasn't working. Wow. What'd you do?
You're really loud now all of a sudden.
That was good. So I was constantly, you know, doing things to show him, you know, how I was feeling, what I was doing, and nothing was working. And every time I would come home, I would try to find something new to do. And I think giving every single part of myself and my all into something and not seeing the progressions and seeing what I needed to happen
like it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And to feel like that, I couldn't eat. I would try to eat. I would be so hungry. I'm like, this sounds so good. So I would go to eat it, and 2 bites full.
Wow.
And so that started my weight loss. And so I lost about 60 pounds in 3 months span. Sheesh. And in that process, my sister was getting married. And so I'm trying to be happy for her getting married and doing all these festivities. And I was so... I couldn't be there. I felt bad. I didn't do anything for her wedding. I was her maid of honor, and I never was there to set up. I never was really there to do anything, and just struggling. So for 3 months, I dealt with not being good enough, looking in the mirror and seeing all my weight loss and thinking, oh my, like, I'm ugly, I don't look good, I'm too skinny, and constantly dealing with these thoughts about myself. And
so you weren't trying to lose weight. It wasn't like an anorexic weight loss. It was like you couldn't eat.
I physically couldn't. I would feel sick. Yeah. And I wanted to eat. I didn't want to lose that weight. I mean, I'm 5'11", or 6 foot, and I weighed 100 pounds. Yeah. And I looked anorexic. I looked like all I had was bone. And so my dress that I got for my sister's wedding, it was a size 8, and I had to get tailored down to a size 2. Wow. So within 3 months. Yeah. And I would bruise really easily at work. I was a server at the time, and a box hit my arm, and I had this huge bruise on my arm because I was so fragile. I was so malnourished, and I was dealing with the thoughts about myself and the insecurity, and I'm a very optimistic person. Like, I'm always happy, I'm always smiling. So for me to be dealing with that, I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. I didn't know it was depression. I was just listening to these thoughts and trying to do things to fix it, and what I was doing wasn't working. Right. And I'm like, all right, I don't understand what's going on. Yeah. And so once I found out that he wanted to be with somebody else, and I was beside myself, because I was like, I did everything I could. She's not going to be able to do anything that I've done. Like, I've worked so long for this, and just feeling that rejection. And so he kind of kept me in the loop for about 3 weeks after he decided to be with her and saying, I still love you, I still care about you. And so that kept me hanging on. So I lost even more weight, not knowing and being in that middle ground. And so after all that, he ended up just ending it. And I had a hard time dealing with that because in my mind, I made up that's who I was going to marry. I didn't care about anyone else. I wasn't going to marry anyone else. I wasn't going to do anything. Like in my mind, like I did all I could to have him and it didn't work. And to put your all into something and not see the benefits of that is horrible. And I've never experienced that before. I've never had been that passionate about something or wanted something that much. And it was the wrong thing, obviously, but still putting your all in something, I was just like, I've never done that. So when I did do it, I figured, hey, I'm finally putting my all on something. I'm going to get what I want. This is awesome. And it didn't turn out like that. And so I really had a hard time looking in the mirror after that and being like, who's even going to want to date me now? Like, who's even going to look at me? Like, I weigh 100 pounds. I'm so skinny. And so I started teaching volleyball at a school, and those girls knew what happened and what I was going through, and they just loved on me so much. And I would show up to practice just like bawling my eyes out. Like every practice, I'm supposed to be their coach. You know, I'm supposed to like have everything put together, know what I'm doing. And so having that community was just because they saw me lose all the weight and like, coach, but why do you lose so much weight? Bawling my eyes out there. I was like, well, it's going through a lot, you know. And so the community of that really helped me push myself to be better. And so I dealt with that for, I would say 8 months of wanting to look better, work out, tell myself I'm beautiful. And so I made it, I didn't want to think those thoughts anymore. And so I started looking in the mirror and I started saying, you're beautiful. Did I mean it? No. I did not think I was.
Fake it till you make it.
Absolutely. Exactly. So I'll look in the mirror and I'd be like, you're beautiful, as I'm getting ready and start thinking those thoughts. And then I go throughout my day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so skinny. Oh, you know, no one's going to want to be with me. No one's going to love me. No one's going to like me. Like the one I wanted, the one that said that loved me didn't love me. So it's just going to happen again. It's just going to, and then other guys that I've dated have done the same exact thing. And so I was just kind of over it. Like I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to date. I was just like, I just got to work on myself. I'm tired of feeling like this. And I remember one day specifically, I was laying in bed and that time I was still a server and it took all I got to get to work. And I worked 3 hours and I'd come home and go to bed. And that was like that for 2 months. All I could do was go to work, come home and go to bed. And my parents didn't really say anything to me. They kind of just let me be. And my brother-in-law came to my room one time. And this was after dealing with it for about 3 months. And he was like, hey, you know, he was a jerk, but you know that you have a family and we love you. And he's not that type of guy at all. And I like kept it together. And once he left, I just lost it. Like I was just like, you're right. You know, even though I'm going through stuff, there's still people that love me. And so they don't want to see me like this. I don't want to see myself like this. And like I said, I'm a very optimistic person. So for me to be down like that, like the energy, I had no energy.
Drained you.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And so I told myself to tell myself that I'm beautiful every day, and I was gonna start working out. So I couldn't even do weights. I was so weak. So I just started with bands. So doing band workouts and then maybe doing a little bit of cardio and actually playing volleyball with my girls and you know kind of enjoying the sport again and getting that love back for the sport. And they made me do Bible studies as a coach. And so I was like, all right, well, I don't really feel like I believe in God right now, or feel like I love God, or like God loves me for going through this, but I'll fake it till I make it, pretty much. So I had to start reading my Bible again and doing stuff, which is crazy how that works.
Forced you in it.
It did. And all those girls were going through something worse than what I had been through. And so God's like, see, people have it worse than you sometimes, and you need to let yourself stop putting yourself in the front lines and put people before you, and that's how you're gonna get over this.
That's good.
And I was like, oh.
Shift your focus.
Yeah.
Well, when you're so focused on yourself and your own problems, it's all you can see.
That's
you can't
all.
see beyond that. So look outside. And
that's what I needed. I needed to be able to focus on those girls and show them that I love them at least. If their parents didn't, or the school didn't, or their friends didn't, that at least someone was there to love on them. And I wish that I had that. And so God was like, you need to be the person that you need to be for them. You know, you're going through stuff, but that'll work itself out. And so putting myself last really helped me get out of that and working out. Those two things, I have to say, were my saving grace of working out and then putting other people before myself.
And that's incredible.
So it took me maybe 2 months to kind of just completely be gone of it. So I started to feel a little pity every now and again. I'm like, no, I don't need to feel bad for myself.
Right.
These girls need attention.
Right.
And so I didn't even think that I would date or get married for years. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm perfectly fine with just teaching volleyball, serving, maybe going back to school, or I don't even know what I wanted to do. And then a couple months later, this guy comes in my life, and we're just hanging out as friends. And next thing I know, we start dating and we're engaged. And so it's crazy how if I didn't shift my focus on those girls, and if I didn't start to work out again, if I didn't force myself to say that I'm beautiful, I can say that I would probably not be with him because I was depressed. I couldn't do anything.
Well, I've heard people say, not that I'm not saying that the depression is selfish, but it does force you to constantly look inside yourself and at your own problems. But sometimes having a new perspective can shift your focus. Yeah. And so you're no longer looking at your problems. You're seeing outside of yourself. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So I think my depression was more or less putting my all into something and not getting the results. And that can be for anyone in any situation, whether it's like school, which I've had that too, where not that I got clinically depressed or really got that depressed, but it sucks to put your all into something and not get the results you wanted. Like you studied, for 3 days straight and you were expecting to get an A and you got an F. Yeah. That just stabs right at you. Right. And so that's kind of how it felt to be doing for something for months on end from, January, March, all the way till May, putting my heart into something about a guy that I thought I wanted to be with and wanted to marry, and that's what I wanted. And it not coming out to be that, but seeing my life now, it makes sense. Yeah.
It all came around.
It did. And now I can use what I've been through to help other people.
Right.
And I think that's what I'm most blessed about is, it sucked to go through that, and it was horrible, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone, but people who are walking through that, being able to have experience in that area to help them out, because like we said, 12 million women go through that just in the United States in a year. So to know that you're not alone, because I felt isolated, I felt alone. I just go to bed, like I would sleep from 4 PM to 10 AM, because that's all I could do. Yeah, that's it. I couldn't even stand up. I felt dizzy. So reaching out, and I wish I had reached out more, but having those volleyball girls were my one people that I could talk to, and they didn't judge me because they're going through stuff too. Yeah. So
well, and that's a good point. So ladies, anybody listening, like, just know that you're seen, and if you need someone to talk to, reach out. Especially at Flow Fitness, we've got an amazing community of women. There's plenty of women that you can reach out to, including us, that every single instructor is wanting to listen and to be there for you. So, all right. So, ladies, most of you already know Maritza. So, Maritza is one of our awesome instructors. You want to share what you teach and what you do and just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Today's Friday, and I am really tired because I've been up since 4:15 this morning because I teach the 5 AM classes. So those are always fun. So come see me, 5 AM, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, someday.
And then, and then I also teach Body Sculpt on Wednesday, 9:45, and Saturday, 8:30. I'm still trying to get the new times.
Yes,
in my
I know
head.
the times mess me up still.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get it.
But
yeah, but so those are my classes. Come see me because they're fun. Yeah. Wednesday mornings are P90X Live Day. It's not that scary.
But we don't really tell people that. That's like you show up and you get it.
That is a true story. But it's always fun. It's totally doable, and it's a good workout. It's a good workout.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So tell us about your family. You married? Kids?
Yeah. So I've got my husband, Andy, who I have been married to for almost 19 years.
That's awesome.
Yep. And we have a 17-year-old daughter, which those who come to my classes probably know her, especially the Saturday class, Isabel. And
those who have little ones in childcare, and she's
has subbed. She's a great girl.
Yes.
And then I have twins, boy-girl twins, Christian and Lexi, that are 10. And Evan is 7.
Evan is 7.
Evan is 7. And it rhymes.
Very cool. So, Maritza is going to share a little bit about the type of depression. She struggled with postpartum depression, which we have heard a lot about at the studio. It's a very normal thing. And once people get comfortable, they start sharing those kind of things, which we love. And it's an atmosphere at Flow Fitness that's what we want. We want people to be able to share their real struggles, and that, you know, the community of support can be around them and walk them through that. So when was it that you had kind of share?
All right. Well, I'm going to give you the 3 different times as a mother that I felt the depression. My first round of depression was when I was trying to get pregnant with the twins. I wasn't trying to get pregnant with twins. I was just trying to have one. I got 2. Isabel is 6 years older than the twins, 6.5 years older. And we started trying when she was about a year old. So we dealt with infertility. And the infertility, I heard you talking about that earlier in the podcast. And that is a real thing. And it's a real thing that is a struggle. And it's a struggle for myself. It was a struggle for Andy. And the want of something so badly, that you want another little human so badly, and not being able to have one was a struggle. And every month, you know, and I would get my cycle, it was a rainfall of tears. So it was, that depression is a little different than the postpartum. But I say that part of the depression because it leads into my postpartum depression. So the depression started where I wanted the babies so badly. Finally, I was blessed with having 2 of them. And when I found out I was pregnant with the twins, I was just ecstatic and enjoyed the pregnancy 1,000%. Looked forward to it. Then came the babies. And came 2 little babies. And I remember just feeling so sad. I almost hate to say it, but I didn't want them. And I'm going, God, why did you give me 2 babies? I can't handle 2 babies. I only asked for 1. Why did you give me 2? I can't deal with 2 babies. And I remember this one day, after the twins came home, taking a shower and crying and trying in my head to think how I can take Isabel and leave and never come back. I can't. So glad I never did, obviously. But those are real feelings that were really there, and I felt guilty. I felt awful for having those feelings, because just a year ago I was crying that I didn't have them. Now I had them and I didn't want them. And it's not that I didn't want them, it's that I don't even know what that, you know, that's that. And see, here it is 10 years later, and I still fight with telling this story and being okay with the fact that it was depression, because it's still 10 years later. As a mom, I feel guilty saying, I didn't want that. I wanted to take Isabel and I wanted to leave. And it's so hard to say, and it's so hard to admit. And it took me a while, quite a few months to get over it. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I enjoyed them as babies. Probably the first night I brought them both home, because Christian was in the NICU for a little bit, was probably what threw me in depression, because that was the worst night of my life. One would sleep, one would cry, one would fall asleep, the other one would cry, one wanted to eat, the other one wanted to eat. So that was enough to drive you crazy. You know, in reality, it took me a handful of months to really come out of it. Then the depression changed. It changed from no longer feeling that way about my babies. And that part kind of left within a couple of months. It got better every day that I was home. So my depression changed from it being about the babies to now it being about me. And feeling awful about myself, and feeling fat
Yeah.
and disgusting. And how could my husband look at me and be attractive? And not feeling like I did have friends, but feeling like I didn't have any
Right.
friends.
Right.
Feeling completely and utterly alone when I wasn't.
Right.
Was such a hard thing to go through.
Yeah.
And being a mom of now going from one kid to three, feeling like I had to step it up.
Right.
And be like, I've got it. I know I have to clean, I have to cook, I have to do, I have to keep my husband happy, I have to keep my kids happy, I have to keep my house happy, I have to keep everybody around me happy, but not me.
Right.
And so ended up being, it took me probably a good year, honestly, to get out of that. Right. And I never fully got out of the depression about myself because I didn't take care of myself.
Yeah.
I just learned to deal with it, still feeling extremely awful about myself. I got pregnant with Evan before the twins turned 3. So they were still little. And Evan was a surprise baby.
Is that scary? Like, is this going to happen all over again?
Yeah, well, yes. And honestly, the depression came back like that the day I found out I was pregnant.
Yeah.
The twins were IVF babies, and I had 7 fertilized embryos frozen after I had them.
Yeah.
I had to decide what to do with those. This is kind of going off topic, but it's really not because it leads to the next depression story. I really struggled with what to do with those because in my faith, I believed those were my babies.
Right.
That's how I viewed them. So to do anything with them was doing something I didn't want to do with what I thought I was doing with my babies. Anyway, I ended up keeping them frozen for about a year, and then we ended up donating them to science because reality was I was not going to have 7 more children.
Right.
So when I found out I was pregnant with Evan, it was about a year later, and I didn't want any more kids. Not that I didn't want them, but I had 7.
Had 3.
I had 3, and I had 7
Right.
that I consider babies.
Right.
I know different people believe different things, but for me, in my heart, those were babies.
Right.
And I had, I thought I was sick. The twins were sick, and they were throwing up all weekend. Monday morning, I was feeling very tired, and I said, I'm going to make an appointment. Made an appointment for Monday morning. I was in the shower, and I started throwing up. And I'm like, caught whatever the kids have. Whatever it is that they have, I've caught it. And I was going to the doctor anyway. And the doctor, we were in there, and I'm like, I'm so tired all the time. She's like, well, can you be pregnant? I'm like, no. Like, I had IVF, you know? Like, it took me 6.5 years to get pregnant.
Right.
And she's like, well, let's just rule it out of the way.
Right.
Okay. I mean, no more did I get out of the bathroom, come back into the room. The door wasn't even shut, and the nurse is at the door saying she's pregnant. It's positive.
Wow.
And I sat there, and I immediately started to cry.
Yeah.
And it was out of guilt. It was out of guilt, which threw me into a ginormous depression.
Right.
It was out of the guilt, out of the 7 that I had gotten rid of.
Yeah.
And it, gosh darn it,
Aww.
getting so emotional.
Yeah.
I felt so guilty.
Yeah.
I felt so guilty for not wanting this one that God had given me.
Right.
When I had gotten rid of
I'm
sorry.
No, it's okay.
Y'all wanted real. I'm giving you real. You know.
Yeah.
I felt awful. I
Mhm.
felt awful because for so long I cried every month when I got my period because I wasn't, and now I was, and I didn't want.
Right.
Evan's pregnancy was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough for me to grasp through my
Mhm.
head what was happening.
Right.
And a lot of praying,
Yeah.
a lot of praying,
Yeah.
a lot of doctor to help me through it.
Mhm.
And Andy started working out when I was pregnant with Evan,
Mhm.
and I would sit and I would watch him. And shortly after Evan, that's actually when I really started my fitness journey.
Yeah.
Because I said, you know what, it made such a difference for him, and like he feels better. I can see it.
Right.
And honestly, I know you talked about it earlier, but it's what helped me get out of my depression.
Right.
It something that I had now for 3 years.
Mhm.
Was very slowly going away,
Right.
and I was becoming a happier person,
Yeah.
and I was becoming a better mother, a better wife, a better Maritza. I was just a better me.
Right.
And yeah.
So you feel like overall you're, well, I think part of it, postpartum, if I'm correct in this, it seems like a lot of times time needs to just take place, and there's treatments and stuff
Correct.
like that, but your hormones coming back into balance and stuff like that a lot of
Correct.
times can, so you feel like that 3 months, a lot of it was timing.
Yeah, I
as far as
think
treatment.
if I want to go back when I think I had true
Mhm.
postpartum, it would be with the twins.
Yeah.
Because shortly after that postpartum
Yeah.
kind of came and went within a few months.
Right.
And within 3-4 months, I was pretty much feeling back to normal. My depression turned into myself because I
Right.
didn't like the way I looked.
Right.
But the baby blues, also known as baby blues,
Yeah.
postpartum depression, and there's actually a huge difference. A lot of people think they have postpartum depression, and it's really baby blues. There's a little bit of a
Mhm.
difference. Just because depression is full blown, I mean,
Right.
it could really mess with you. I'm sorry.
No, like explain postpartum and the baby blues. Like,
All I saw was this.
oh my god.
Okay, so the difference between baby blues and full blown depression, a lot of it is when you get sad. Your hormones
Right.
are so goofy after you have a baby, and you cry a lot, and that kind of thing.
Right.
And you might even have some, oh, what did I get myself into kind of questions
Right.
that, all
I don't
new
know how to do
moms,
this.
right, I don't know how to do this, and kind of freak out about it. And that's more of the baby blue. The depressions are more when the more serious thoughts get into your head of
Right.
wanting to leave, of, thank God I never had these, but some women have, of hurting your children,
Right.
of, I mean, that's a reality. Those are
Right.
real things that
Yeah.
happen. For me, I had my happy little blue pill that the doctor gave me that really
Yeah.
did help me.
Right.
So I did take medication for
Mhm.
that. Again, my depression kind of changed, but
Yeah.
stayed for a good 3 years.
Right.
And it really wasn't until I added fitness
Mhm.
and changed my diet
Mhm.
that it started changing for me.
Right.
And part of it, mainly, I think by that point, I was learning to love myself again.
Yeah.
Because for so long I didn't.
Yeah.
So that's huge. One of the great things that I think we have here at Flow is that we're such a small community
Right.
of such awesome women. And it's unlike any other. This is one of the things that I absolutely love about Flow.
Yeah.
Is that it's unlike any other place that you can go work out at,
Right.
whatever it is, because we are all so real.
Mhm.
We are all so real, and our clients are so real.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had that,
Right.
because I didn't like to talk about it. And I was scared to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I was scared to be judged.
Yeah.
And to know that you're in a community at Flow with so many women who are going through so many of the same things, I think it's just amazing that we can offer that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Maritza. I appreciate you sharing with us and being raw and exposed, and I know that's never easy.
No, sorry, I cried.
We appreciate it. Yeah, so we're gonna wrap up this depression segment here now. But it's because it's important. It's so important to talk about these kind of things. As hard as it is, sometimes it's very, very important, because that's the first step. Actually being vulnerable and exposing what you're walking through is the first step to getting any sort of healing. So, well, next time we're going to be talking about a little lighter topic, different kinds of workouts, whether it's restorative workouts like stretching and lengthening and toning versus heavy weightlifting versus cardio type workouts, and the benefits and possibly even the downsides of each, and how to mix them together, or what to do to get the best results and stuff that we've tried. So it's going to be a fun one. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, good stuff. So, all right, ladies, thanks for joining us today. It would be awesome if you would follow us on YouTube, Podbean, or iTunes. Any one of those, you'll be able to access our podcast. And if you wouldn't mind dropping us a rating, it is super helpful for us to get the word out. So if you benefit from these podcasts, share it with your friends and let them benefit as well.
And subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe.